Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome into Stacking Dubs. I'm your host, Chris Chin, coming to you after the Raptors game last night, where the Warriors eke by and take their bumps, including Steph Curry's bump. Tailbone contusion is what they're calling it. Means no fracture. MRI coming up. I don't know what they'll find in an MRI. There's not too much ligament or soft tissue in that area. But I guess they'll just want to double check that there's nothing more severe. I think the biggest worry for all of us when you saw Steph go down was immediately you thought of his back and the ailing back injuries that he's had. Nothing seems to indicate that that was compromised or injured. I'm sure it doesn't feel good injuring the tailbone, and I'm sure his back got jarred a bit, but I would be much more concerned if, we're talking, anything to kind of his discs in his back or even just kind of soft tissue re-aggravation to the low back. We haven't heard anything on that. It just sounds like it's just a tailbone injury. And if that's the case, I think I don't want to say best case scenario, but there are some silver linings. It's from having a tailbone injury in the past, and you guys are starting to learn that I've had basically every injury under the rainbow, but it's pain tolerance. It's, anytime you're bending over, you're sitting down, getting up, you're kind of just, anytime you're bending your knees, you're bending your waist, any kind of flexion, you feel that tailbone because it's right in the middle of your body and it just hurts. It's really tight. You know what a bruise feels like? It's just that bruise feels very tender sometimes for a few days. I mean, he's had this before. He's sitting on a donut. I don't know how much time he missed then, but I mean, I'd say worst case, we're talking a couple weeks, assuming again that there's no additional injury to the area compromising it, and it's just a pain tolerance issue. And if that's the case, I guess the silver lining here is, I talked about it last episode, and I didn't want to jinx it by saying it, but the year the Warriors won the championship in 2022, Steph Curry got a few weeks of rest. I think it was 4 or 5 weeks of rest coming back from that foot injury before the playoffs. And so, I think given all his ailments, given his back, given his thumb, given his knees, most importantly, I know he's kind of had some light ankle foot stuff as well, and he's just tired, quite frankly. This might be the rest he needs, and if it's just a bruise and he can come back, fully and in full health and maybe say a week, it could be a win for the Warriors if they can hold on to their six spots and, kind of weather a relatively light schedule, albeit on the road. I think what's a 6 game road trip coming up, and there's a few days of rest between a couple games. And the first four, I think it's what Hawks. There's Spurs in there. There is Pelicans in there. I got to look at it again. The Heat are in there. At least go 3-1. I mean, we're all going to want 4-0 on those 4 games, but if you can weather those 4 games, hopefully worst case without Steph, then you hopefully get him back for I think April 1st is the Grizzlies. And then after that, it's the Lakers. So those games are the kind of ones I'm circling for hopefully Steph's return. Maybe he's back even sooner, but if he can get, I think that would be until the Grizzlies game, 12 days, 11 days of rest, get right, feel good, and be kind of ramping up from that point for the last, I think, like 7 games of the season could be a net positive, but again, there's a lot that has to go right. And the Warriors, it's going to be extra usage on Jimmy, extra usage on Pajemski, extra usage on Dre. Everyone's going to get a little bit more wear and tear on their tires just from having to cover from just everything that you lose with Steph off the court. But again, on the flip side, you're going to gain a lot of much needed experience with Steph off the court. And we've seen that in the last 2 games with Warriors led by Jimmy Butler, point forward, Jimmy Butler, leading us to a win over the Bucks and a game with some ups and downs, but overall a very good win to do without Steph. And then last night coming back against the Raptors, where this team's starting to believe, it's starting to find other options. You might be able to get a little bit more usage out of Kuminga, who needs the minutes, needs the playing time, needs to really kind of get it going and get in rhythm. And, maybe this gives him a little bit more opportunity. And that's also a very important thing for the Warriors because he's looked very inconsistent and has spurts, but it's been a pretty rough shot selection for Kuminga. But anyways, back to Steph. I My one concern is with the tailbone injury. You're not going to be doing much strengthening, your glutes, your hips, all that, like deadlifting. You're not doing any of that for the next week. You're just resting it for the most part. I don't want that to lead into a compromised back injury that he's been kind of dealing with. I don't want that, weaker hips can lead to instability at the knees, and we know how been having the knee tendonitis. So I guess my point is, you're going to be resting, but you're also going to, be a little compromise in terms of when you come back, you need to be at full strength so that you're not at risk of injuring, the next joint over from, up or down along that body. So get well soon, Steph. We're going to find out probably more by the time you're listening to this episode, and you'll probably know more than I do, but I'm predicting maybe he misses 3, 4 games, and hopefully the Warriors can win most of those and then give him a little bit more time to take his time and get back. Looking at the standings, it's interesting. The Warriors obviously are in the 6th seed. Pretty. I don't know if they're going to catch the 5. There's a chance. I don't know if we want to get up to the 4 or 5 game and then have to potentially see the Thunder in the second round. 6 spots where you want to be, but here's an interesting scenario: is that the Nuggets right now are sitting 3, and it's tight up there, but the Rockets are sitting at 2. Is there a scenario where you say it's almost better, not better to be the 7 seed, but say you drop into the play-in and you get to the 7 seed, you win that game. I don't want to play that game, but if you get into that 7 seed and you get to play Houston in the first round, that ultimately could be a better situation. You're ducking the Thunder in that second round as well. Obviously, you're not going to want to drop into the play-in, but if you win that game, then all is set up a bit better, because I think the best case scenario is playing the Rockets in a first round series. So again, worst case scenario, if you do fall back, because we're a game and a half up on the Clippers, 1 in the loss column, and we don't have the tiebreaker against them. So 1 loss and it's out of your hands. The Clippers could pass you. And even though the Clippers have a harder schedule than the Warriors would then drop and play the Timberwolves in that 7-8 game. And if you can just take care of Minnesota, then you get the 7 seed. And if the Rockets are still that 2 seed, that's not a bad matchup. So just kind of a hypothetical thought experiment. I am not saying I want to drop into the 7. Let's talk about the game a little bit. So Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Quinten Post, players of the game. We'll disperse it all equally. I mean, we'll talk Quinten Post. I mean, there's nothing that needs to really be said other than he's improving by the game. His shot is for real. It's a quick release. It's hard to get to because he's a 7'1" player. The fairly high release doesn't bring it down much, and he can shoot from multiple spots on the floor. It's a very smooth catch and shoot, the best catch and shoot player we've had since Klay Thompson. And he's the second best shooter on our team. I've seen enough sample size to say, hey, if Buddy Hield's taking a open 3 and Quinten Post is taking an open 3, I like Post a little bit more than Buddy Hield. But again, it's a smaller sample size. And then defensively, you're getting that rim protection that you need him to provide out of the 7-footer. It's another block tonight, but kind of affected a few at the rim. Still leaves a bit to be desired, just kind of moving those feet, but that's where the improvement's been coming along. He's playing it well, and if you can continue to kind of anticipate, he's not going to get faster, but you can play quicker and anticipate and just keep learning where you need to be and help defense. And if that continues to improve, he's going to keep finding more and more minutes and potentially be a significant playoff, just kind of change of pace center that can save Dre some minutes, save Looney some minutes, and just give you a different look that the Warriors need in a stretch center. Back to Jimmy and Draymond, who they have just given this team a whole different attitude, identity. Defensive end, they're the highest rated duo in the NBA since they come together. They're everywhere. I mean, in the beginning, throughout the game, Jimmy Butler's everywhere, both sides of the court. Draymond Green has been everywhere defensively for the last decade. They are 2 of the best off-ball defenders in the league. And, what's been the problem for the Warriors is that when Draymond Green gives help a lot of the time there's nobody helping the helper, where basically Draymond gives his help and then it falls apart on the backside. Now you have smart team defenders and Jimmy Butler, basically being on a string with Draymond Green. They're playing in unison, and it's kind of like Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw at that middle linebacker spot, where you're only as good as the guy that you're attached to, that's providing help, and you just amplify each other. And that attitude mixed with just the energy, the aggressiveness, the physicality, and just the leadership and the IQ on both sides of the court, it leads me to want to call them the Brash brothers. Rude, bold, aggressive, cocky, physical, brash. I like it. You heard it here first. Brash brothers. If it catches on, spread the word. If not, then it's just a dumb joke by me. But they've been leading the Warriors, and you're getting a great offensive version of Draymond Green these days. You're getting great offense out of a lot of players who were struggling before we had Jimmy Butler. And it's just because you finally have a point forward. You have someone who can affect the game from the inside out, and it gives you spacing when you have passing coming from the interior. There's no easier jump shot to take than someone passing from under the hoop or from the baseline. And that's the shot you practice all the time and shoot around. Ball's always kind of coming from down low, catch and shoot. That's why you see GP3, who didn't play last night, but he's shooting as well. He shot all season. Pajemski, same thing. Draymond's been shooting well until he ended up shooting 14 attempts, but he made 5 of them. And that's what the Warriors are going to need without Steph Curry, is you're going to get open shooters, because the Warriors, quite frankly, I have a lot of sub 35% shooters, and teams want to take away as much spacing as possible, and they're going to live with everybody other than probably Buddy Hield taking open threes. They're even letting Post take open threes, which is going to have to stop soon, I would imagine. But my point is, if you have guys that can just knock down that 33 to 35% clip on wide open threes, that is a fine option in the aggregate. You're going to be right on track that you need to offensively. The question is, can Jimmy Butler continue to be that engine at 36 years old? Is he 36? Yeah, he might be a little younger. I kind of forget what Jimmy is. He might be 35. But he's in shape finally. He's ramped up. He's everywhere, and he plays a very physical style. Can he continue to hold up? And can Draymond Green, who is dunking, flying around, 90-foot chase down steals, they're both just playing a very, very high energy physical game, and it's great to see. They need to be able to hold up because the playoffs are coming, and you need to be just, as fresh as possible. So that's where I see, the Warriors are not going to be blowing out teams over these next couple of weeks while Steph's gone and such. You're going to be playing a lot of clutch games, a lot of heavy minutes, and a lot of high usage minutes. But that's what the Brash brothers are meant for. They're going to give your team that play with force, energy, mentality. And when you get Pajemski, who buys into that same idea, same mentality, you have Gary Payton II, who plays in that same mentality. You got 4 guys who are willing to get after it on the defensive side, get on the floor for loose balls, Moses Moody included. Can you get enough offense? And can you get the big question? Can you get Jonathan Kuminga caught up to speed to play defense the same way on a string, aware, in the good spot? You saw Draymond Green chewing him out at one point in the game. And then can Kuminga do the same on the offensive side without as much spacing? I mean, that's the biggest question. Obviously, other than Steph's injury, the biggest question is, can you get Kuminga up to speed? And if so, this team can contend. If not, you're going to see this team kind of where they're at right now, where they're beating these below 500 teams. They can beat good teams, but I don't know if they can win a series against, the upper echelon teams, the Cavs, Thunder, Celtics, Nuggets, in the league. So that's where we're at. But going back to Jimmy Butler, you're just an alpha amongst alphas, mentality wise. You're a superstar when you can just change the way you play after, your entire career averaging 4.5 assists, being a mid-20 scorer and just kind of playing that style and being extremely successful with it. And then you can just go to a brand new team and just be a lead ball handler, basically just revamp a motion offense where no one thought that Jimmy was going to fit in this offense very well. And here he is, getting 12 assists, another triple double, second triple double of the season, in less than a week. And, completely changed the style of play to just being a secondary scorer and just an elite playmaker. And I had no idea that Jimmy Butler could do that. I had no idea that Jimmy Butler was as smart as he is on the defensive side of the ball. I knew that Jimmy Butler was a winner, and I knew that a lot of his issues from other teams stemmed from his competitiveness and just being tough on teammates and just wanting to win at all costs. He's an enigma of a personality, and it works for the Warriors because you're used to that with Draymond Green, and now you basically have two of them. We're going back to it. You just have two guys that want to win at all costs, will lay it on the line, just high energy, physical, just winners, just with that attitude, that swagger. And again, I would throw Pajemski in there too. Just, it's three guys. And if you want to throw Steph in there, just, alpha swagger that just nothing is going to phase them. And that's why you've found so much success in playoff situations with those specifically three guys, those three stars who raise their level in the playoffs because they are unfazed and they are brash. All right. Well, looking ahead, we got the Hawks tomorrow. First game of a road trip, always tough. Changing two times or three time zones to the east is tough. I don't know if Steph's going to make the trip, at least for the beginning. I wouldn't think that sitting on a plane is going to be very comfortable for him, and they might just let him rest at home for a couple games. We'll see where they're at before he joins them later in the trip. But again, the nice part about this schedule coming up is there's 2 days off between I think the Heat game after the Heat game. I could be wrong, but there's a couple of games off between two of the games. So you're going to get a little extra rest for everybody, including Steph. All right, I'm going to run, but it's good to continue stacking and let's keep moving forward and just keep enjoying this next iteration, next chapter of the Warriors. And we're going to just kind of continue to see and find new ways to win games. And again, it's the silver lining is the more ways you can find to win games, the more opportunity and just confidence you can get some of these role players. And the more you can continue to have Jimmy Butler be the leader of this offense where, he's the primary ball handler and you can win in the clutch operating without Steph, the better you're going to be for the playoffs. All right. Well, have a good one, guys. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Chris Chin. Hit like, hit subscribe. And until next time, peace, love, and stacking dubs.